Hi everyone, I hope all is well. This week's Parshat is Parshat Vayigash. Now, for this week's Devar Torah, I'd like to play my favorite game. So often I talk about how every word in the Torah is so precious, and very often I analyze something called a double lashon, when the Torah repeats something, says something twice. So, let's jump into this week's Parsha and play this double lashon game. So, when Yosef finally reveals himself to his brothers, when Joseph reveals himself, the Torah says he first literally revealed that he's Joseph, and then in the next verse it says, he repeats, he says, I am Joseph, I'm Joseph. So it begs the obvious question, why does he have to reveal himself twice? Why doesn't just one instance of him revealing himself to his brothers suffice? So Moshe Feinstein says that the first time that Yosef reveals to his brothers was like the appearance, like, look guys, I'm your brother, look at me, right? You'll recognize me. And the second one was an assurance to the brothers that he hasn't given into Egyptian ideology and turned into someone that might hate the brothers from coming from Israel and not adhering to Egyptian religion as being Jewish. So that's one instance of the Torah repeating itself in this week's Parsha. Now keep note of that. Another instance is with the Jewish people toward the end of the Parsha. And it says the Jewish people moved to Goshen, this place in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. But the pasuk doesn't say that they just moved to Goshen. It says that they moved to Goshen, which is in Egypt, right? Okay, let's play the game again. Just say they moved to Goshen. We know, right? You could look at a map back then. Goshen's within Egypt. Okay, you're good. Why do you have to repeat it twice? We already know this. So we see again, if you look at Rashi outlines that the Jewish people in Goshen were able to learn Torah and to daven and I guess do some baseline level mitzvot, but really they weren't able. They were restricted as Jews. They weren't able to practice Judaism in its fullest. Why? Because they were in Goshen, but they were in Mitzrayim. They weren't in Israel, is the point. So they were being restricted as Jews through their Jewish practices. They were missing stuff. It's just not possible to do outside the land of Israel. So that brings us to the main point of this week's Devar Torah. What do we, so many of us, have this issue that we're living outside of the land of Israel in today's day and age, and we're just like the Jews in Egypt, as quote-unquote being restricted in our abilities to practice our Judaism to the fullest. How do we really, obviously there's only one answer. To be able to practice our Judaism in the fullest, we have to be in Israel. That's the only answer. But in our time not being in that situation, what can we do outside to make sure that we retain our identity as Jews to get us to that point eventually? Well, we have to circle back to what Yosef is showing us at the beginning of this week's Parsha. Right? Yosef has been in Egypt for such a long time already, and he's become the viceroy of Egypt, but yet he is able, without his brothers asking him, he's able to do a reality check just for himself, right? Maybe Yosef didn't have to tell his brothers, right? His brothers could have seen at first that, oh, look, here's Joseph, I'm not going to give it a second thought whether he's given to Egyptian culture or not. It's very possible that Joseph did it for himself. He said, look, I'm Yosef, and then, he's looking around at his brothers who are probably wearing rags and he's wearing real clothes, saying, no, I'm Yosef. I'm a Jew. I'm not from Egypt. This is not who I am. So I think really a beautiful message for all of us, many of us living outside of Israel today, is for us to constantly do this reality check saying, I'm Joseph, and then take a little break and then say again, I'm Joseph. I'm really embodying everything as a Jew, and that's who I am. And with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.